Governor J.B. Pritzker set to sign an energy omnibus bill this morning to change Illinois energy policy with a continued focus on renewable energy and battery storage. And they're also lifting the moratorium on nuclear energy. But a lot of opponents saying it's merely going to increase the price of energy for businesses and customers across the state, because we still have those deadlines in place to close coal-fired power plants. It is Illinois in Focus Daily with you. I'm Greg Bishop, editor at thecentersquare.com for Illinois, so go check that out. So with the governor set to sign this bill up in Joliet this morning in just about, 2 hours from now, you've got the question of what exactly this thing does. A whole host of things. So some moments from the past when they were debating this in the halls of the General Assembly. Here is just some of the back and forth during some news conferences, separate news conferences about energy policy from alternative energy advocates, consumer advocates, and Democrats and Republicans on either side of this.
The issue of energy capacity here in Illinois. The spikes that we have seen beginning in June on the customers' bills is unacceptable. We have to act, and we have to act today, and we have to act tomorrow and get this through this veto session, because we can't go through another summer of these horrendous spikes in electricity bills. This will address that. It was mentioned that this will provide $13 billion in net benefits to the customers. That's residential customers, that's manufacturing customers as well.
Now, I watched the previous press conference. They blamed it on several things. I will tell you why your prices are going up. Because capacity is being forced offline. Natural gas plants in the state are being forced offline. Natural gas is the cheapest way to provide capacity, which is what we need because of the new economy, the AI economy that you hear about. We all agree that we need more power. I agree with my colleagues that just spoke. Many states are looking at how to solve this problem. The difference is, in all of the other states that they mentioned, they're building out natural gas combined cycle plants to be able to power their data centers. They're not doubling down on expensive renewable power, such as wind and solar, and now battery, and transmission lines built in to move the power from another state from wind and solar that are paid by ratepayers.
As we in Illinois face soaring electric bills, market architects applaud these high price outcomes for sending strong market signals. Well, then it's time for our state to respond to these signals and act now to protect Illinois consumers. SB 25 gives us the tools to do that. These tools, such as energy efficiency, battery storage, virtual power plants, and optional time of use rates, can work on a system-wide level to cost-effectively help us avoid electric price volatility. But they're also tools that regular residential electric customers can deploy at home to take control of their own energy bills.
This bill was written by special interest groups and rubber stamped by the governor's administration, leaving Illinois families to pay the price. It lifts the caps that protect consumers, hands sweeping new powers to unelected regulators, and doubles down on unreliable energy sources that simply cannot sustain our state's power needs. This proposal will lead to higher electric bills, less reliability, and fewer options for families and manufacturers alike.
So that's both sides here of the debate about Senate Bill 25 that came together during fall veto session. You had news conferences about it, a lot of hearings about it, a lot of ink spilled over it, as they say. You've got, when it got to the floor of either chamber, the debate continued, and the concerns were raised that this reliance on battery storage subsidies on top of wind and solar subsidies, while closing coal-fired power plants and natural gas-fired power plants, it's not going to be enough to cover the demand. And the demand is why we've seen the rates continue to go up. It's a mix of high demand and low capacity. Here's more of the debates from fall veto session on the Senate and House floor back in October.
As I mentioned at the beginning, that item will be immediately offset because that's the same date that the battery storage providers will start providing extra capacity, providing power to the grid, and that will offset that cost. And as I've said numerous times before, the dividends will continue to pay down the road. There will be billions of dollars of savings by the additional generation caused by the battery storage because they're very effective at dealing with those peak demands. And customers will see more capacity and lower bills in the years ahead because of how this is structured.
The bill is an $8 billion rate increase. It asks Illinois families to foot the bill for the state's latest energy experiment, and the result will be higher electric bills, fewer reliable power sources, and more special treatment for the politically connected.
We can get into the finite nature of batteries and the rest of it, but the Democrats have a long history of helping utility payers. Former Speaker Mike Madigan, that I had a brief period of working with, about 26 days, and a former head of a major power company, and the number 2 nationally, are both in prison for helping utility payers in the state of Illinois. Then we have CEJA a few years ago, and we got within 24 hours of shutting down 2 nuclear plants. And my Democrat friends in the aisle combined the threat of a shutdown of Seneca and Byron with a bunch of crummy ideas in a CEJA bill. So I decided to work with the Democrats and voted for CEJA. I've regretted it ever since. And now we have this non-guarantee of future rate reduction. Please, please, Democrats, stop helping utility payers across the state of Illinois. They cannot afford any more of your expensive help. Ronald Reagan said it best. The scariest words from politicians are, I'm here from the government and I'm here to help. Utility payers in Illinois cannot afford your well-intentioned, bad, expensive ideas.
We should be looking at natural gas to produce more energy, not just find a way to store a non-base load production. The reality is we've passed FEJA, which increased rates. We've passed CEJA, which increased rates. And now we're going back to ratepayers saying, oh, give us one more try. Third time's a charm. Let us pass this and it'll lower your rates. The reality is that none of this will be online for at least 5 years. So energy prices are going to continue to rise because of FEJA and CEJA. They're going to continue to rise.
Again, that's the debate that happened amongst the elected state officials, and it ultimately did pass with Republican opposition not really amounting to something that could stop the supermajority Democrats in either chamber of the General Assembly. But it's not just those politicians sounding off on their concerns. The Illinois Manufacturers Association also sounding off on their concerns. Last month, we chatted with Mark Denzler. He is the president and CEO of the Illinois Manufacturers Association, and he shared with us that a recent report from several state agencies highlights that the current trajectory the state's on isn't going to cut it, and going to batteries also isn't going to cut it. And it's just going to lead to higher costs for consumers and manufacturers.
We didn't need a 200-plus page report to tell us what we already need. The fact is, Illinois is in crisis when it comes to energy, as are many states around the country. And quite frankly, what the report says, what we already knew and what the IMA's testified to, is that the demand doesn't meet the generation. It's simply supply and demand. And as we've seen growth from manufacturing and quantum and data centers, at the same time that state policies are resulting in the closure of baseload energy, coal, gas, and even nuclear across the country, it's simply a supply and demand issue. And this report says that Illinois is going to struggle, and there's going to be a date in the near future where we may not have enough power to meet the demand we need. Keep the current generational plants going, the clean coal plants and the gas plants. Make sure they continue operating. Secondly, we have to invest in new generation. And we were happy that the nuclear moratorium was removed. That's going to take a few years. We need to add gas plants. Renewables are an important part of the mix, but it's an all the above strategy. We also have to invest in transmission lines and technologies like carbon capture and battery storage, so long as they're done in an affordable manner. But again, if the governor and lawmakers didn't hear the warning signs about capacity auctions, they clearly need to read this 200-page report. And again, I think a good first step, sending a message to the market, is keep those current plans. Particularly after this report's come out, we would encourage the governor to veto that bill, go back to the table, look at this report that, they should have waited until they saw this report in the first case and see what this said. And it clearly says you need to keep your current resources on board. And so, that sends a message. And again, renewables are part of it, but it also, this report says that they're not dispatchable. And during peak hours, they're part of the solution, but renewables are not the entire solution. And again, I think reading through this report, battery storage, there's a better way to finance it. Battery are important, but in this case, the legislation on the governor's desk, there's going to be a new line item on everyone's bill to pay for $7 billion of battery storage. And this report calls for 3 or 4 times that amount of battery storage. So again, the governor's going to sign the energy bill. By all accounts, he supported it. Their team helped negotiate it. But this report clearly sends a message to the governor and General Assembly. They need to go back to the table, need to work on it. We know the bill that the governor's likely to sign is going to create the integrated resource planning and give those decisions to the Commerce Commission, to 5 people. And the General Assembly is going to kind of take itself out of it. But given that their consumers and constituents and businesses are going to face rate hikes, we think that they should pay more attention to this.
Again, that's Mark Denzler in a conversation I had with him last month, where he was encouraging the governor to veto the Energy Omnibus Bill, Senate Bill 25. Well, the governor's expected to sign that today up in Joliet. So we'll see exactly if he's asked to respond to the criticisms that this energy is just not enough and we need to go back to coal and fire and natural gas-fired power plants. Yeah, it lifts the nuclear moratorium, but that's going to take a while for things to get fired back up. Should we just keep the existing coal-fired power plants that we have in place and allow for those investors to have certainty moving forward instead of a 2035 or 2040 cutoff date? So clearly, one thing that Denzler said there at the tail end was a concern that Republicans also raised, was that this legislation essentially takes away some of the decision making from legislators and puts it in to a state agency that is going to make the determination as to whether or not the kill switch needs to be flipped to stop the closure of coal-fired power plants or natural gas-fired power plants. When is that decision going to be made? Is it merely that, we've got a week's worth of blackouts that happened, or is it going to be an exorbitant cost that consumers are being asked to pay? I guess we'll see if any of these concerns are addressed when the governor goes to sign that legislation today. All right, so again, stay with us. It's Illinois in Focus daily. Why? Because things happen daily. We need to keep you posted on what's going on so you can get on with your day, and that's what we do here with the Center Square. All right, it's Illinois in Focus daily. Get the headlines in your inbox. Go to thecentersquare.com, click on newsletters, fill it out. It's free, it's open to you, and no paywall, promise. You get a lot of important and pertinent information, not just from Illinois, but from across the country. All right, so go check that out at thecentersquare.com.